Newcomer, page 76. October 23rd, 1987. The woman who just left here was the biggest, fattest, ugliest bitch that I've ever encountered. She's that woman you see in the grocery line screaming at her dirty-faced, terrified children that she ain't got no money enough to buy you no goddamn candy, while shoveling unpaid-for double-stuffed Oreo cookies into her 50-pound face. And her breath, how can I describe it? There isn't a sludge mound old enough to reek that odor. Needless to say, I couldn't perform. There is a limit. So check this out. They sent in a pinch hitter. She was a supreme goddess. LaQuanta stared out the open window from her bed. The morning breeze sneezed sporadically through the leaves of the trees that surrounded her balcony. This early morning serenity was replaced by angst as her mind diverted to her charge's masturbation process. She cursed the charged Barry and her station, and she cursed the Holy Mother Matrix for being a queen, an obligation and not a calling. A body stirred next to her, breaking her self-pitying mood. She reached over and smoothed her hand down the long, silky leg of her new lover. Scenes from last night's interlude cleared her mind and made her grateful for being alive during this time of the way. If she had been born before restructure, she would have been branded a lesbian and treated like a social outcast. She prayed an apology to the Holy Mother Matrix for her early morning blasphemies and forgiveness of her sin of taking a lover during indoctrination. Therese, she whispered into the Nubian's ear, it's time for a shower. The thought of lathering Therese's body gave her reason to get up where the thought of indoctrinating a charge never could. Therese stretched cat-like, pulling back the bed sheets and revealing her breast to LaQuanta. The sight stirred LaQuanta, confirming her beliefs. She slid down to kiss Therese's hard nipples. Therese moaned, sitting up to caress and suck LaQuanta's breast before turning her mouth for a quicker morning kiss. The two women rose and left to take a shower. October 24th, 1987. The supreme goddess bathed me, then rubbed me down with oil. As I lay on my stomach, she massaged my thighs and asked till I thought that I'd explode. And she blindfolded me and instructed me to roll over. Oh, the things she did to me then. As I came, she yanked off the blindfold, and you guessed it, I had filled up sludge breath. The grumpy doctor fumbled with the door cold. Julie spied her boss's dilemma and met her at the door with a cup of coffee. Busy morning, Julie said, following Diana into her office. The appointments are scheduled and logged in. I also called the Queens. Even LaQuanta will be on time today. Julie accepted the grunt of thanks and left. Diana turned on her computer to find the day's activities had already been dumped into a pinboard. She made a mental note to properly thank Julie for the added preparations that would afford her the time to drink her coffee. LaQuanta's was the first appointment for the day. Everyone knew that LaQuanta didn't like her position. In fact, the Queen didn't like men at all. Her charges were always devastated after the interview, shy when intercourse appointments were made, battered when they were over, and either didn't sell or brought in the lowest bids of the wages. This Queen made Diana test and retest her charge of sperm and constantly request the latest scientific findings. for the Quanta was entirely convinced that sperm couldn't live outside of the male's body. What saved Diana from totally losing patience with the Quanta was the fact that the Queen was an excellent mother. She kept and raised all of her female children herself, even nursing the males until they were 6 months old. Diana was surprised that LaQuanta hadn't rescheduled. She was no lover of mourning, but at 9:30 Aaron buzzed the Queen's arrival. "Send her in, Julie," the doctor announced. The office door opened and in flounced LaQuanta. The doctor smiled, trying to remain professional as she knew that a dinner invitation was imminent. "Diana," the Queen said, "only you could look ravishing in a white lab coat, though you should add some color, maybe a paisley scarf for your neck." Accepting her praise and fashion suggestion, Diana leaned across her desk for the cordial embrace. As usual, LaQuanta kissed both of Diana's cheeks, then held her face for contact. The doctor broke the sexual gaze by clearing her throat and sitting down behind her desk. Innocent flirting was acceptable in their society. No one dared cross the line unless the invitation was accepted. The morbid tales from history about sexual harassment and rape, along with the rules of the way, were enough to keep one's lust in check, but there were always individuals who stretched the point. The Quattro was one such individual. Diana knew that the barrage wouldn't end, having gotten used to it over the years, so she kept her office visits quick, cordial, and strictly routine. "Your last cycle was March 6th, she asked, not looking up from her pinboard. Having been put in the role of patient, quieted LaQuanta. She sat down in a chair before the doctor's desk, mentally checking the date of her last period. "Yes," she said, "I believe that's right." She took out a handkerchief and dabbed the perspiration beads above her lip. She couldn't stop thinking about Diana's long abstinence, knowing that she could help the poor child break down her walls. "So," Diana continued, "that makes you due next week. Have you been checking your temperature?" "Yes," LaQuanta sighed, aggravated by the clinical questions. "I ovulated a few days ago." "Good. I'll meet you in the examining room after you buzz me." LaQuanta left and went to the sterile room. While she undressed, she knew she was aroused, and the doctor would detect this. Choosing respect, as she always did, she dried herself with the handkerchief that she carried with her and quickly buzzed the doctor before she had a chance to think too much. When Diana entered the room, she knew her patient was uncomfortable and whined. She placed her pinboard on the counter near the door and instructed LaQuanta to review it and authorize it on the way out. The subject of procedure cooled LaQuanta, making the internal the necessary indignation that it always was. To curtail further advances, goodbyes were said while LaQuanta was on the table, still in her role of patient. Do you know if 10 minutes has gone by or not? I'm sorry. Let's try one more paragraph. The next appointment was being buzzed, and as Diana's previewed for the file, it was Queen Lucretia. Diana and Lucretia had been friends for many years, she being the only one who could help with Diana during her depression over her loss of a niece. Lucretia never wanted to be Diana's lover, having a soulmate herself. Once she looked forward to marrying when her duty as queen was over. That time was approaching, for Lucretia was 38, making Randy her last charge before becoming an indoctrination instructor. Diana rose from her desk to meet Lucretia at the door. "Lucretia," she said when she saw the matronly woman, "how are you doing?" she asked, holding the woman's shoulders after the friendly embrace. "I'm fine, Diana." Lucretia smoothed the strand out of Diana's eyes. "Maybe a little sentimental about Randy," she said. "He'll be my last charger now." "I understand," Diana said as they walked arm in arm over to her desk. Lucretia made herself comfortable in the patient's chair while Diana sat down at her desk.